Welcome to another edition of the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VEASAN. I'm your host, Femi Abebefe. As always, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Our producer, Elliot Bowman, with us on the ones and twos as always. Michael, what a weekend in the National Football League. My goodness.
Have you thawed out? Are you thawed out? Because I heard you were in Buffalo cheering on Tua. Is that true? Huh? Were you up there?
I think I was cheering for the other quarterback in that game based on a bet that I made over the weekend. But we'll get into that a little bit later. That game, how about that game? That was awesome. But like we talked about leading up to this on Thursday that, hey, this weekend we get 3 games Saturday. We get a full slate on Sunday. And it was electric from start to finish. And let's start with what we saw here in Las Vegas, Michael.
Oh
my goodness. God. The New England Patriots and the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not sure if this game has a nickname yet. We'll have to come up with one in the near future. But the Raiders win an improbable game against the Patriots 30-24. And this was a situation where the Raiders had to drive the field to tie the game up. The Keelan Cole touchdown from Derek Carr. And then the last play of the game, which I'm still trying to figure out how in the world that just happened. Jacoby Myers lateraling the ball backwards. Chandler Jones takes it in for a touchdown as the Raiders walk it off. What was your reaction watching that in your living room, Michael, yesterday afternoon?
Well, you know, I mean, obviously, I have two emotions. I really like the Patriots, as you know, and it's painful for me to watch them on offense trying to throw the football. I mean, it's a huge issue, and it's so bad, and it's, you know, and as I'm watching that game, you know, when they lost, when the Raiders lost their offensive lineman, you know, and then they had to replace them. I mean, New England was in complete control of that game in the second half. I think they had 2 first downs, and Carr looked bad, and the whole team looked bad. And then on that last drive, you know, they got a 4th and 10, and they throw the out over there to the bench, and they get the first down, and then the Cole catch, which I didn't think it was. I mean, at first I thought it was, but then when I saw the replay, I didn't think it was, but I couldn't really tell, you know. And what's so amazing about how the league is such a thin line between winning and losing, had that game been on Sunday night with NBC and the whole crew, you know, all of them, your girl Maria, everybody there, right? You know, they would have more cameras. We'd have been able to see it. But I didn't think it was a touchdown, but I didn't think you could overturn it, right? Matty Human sent me a text like late last night of a picture of it. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but I can't tell if that was photoshopped or not. So to me, the improbable play that Cole makes, because I've seen Cole drop too many balls to really trust him and think he'll make a tough catch. You know, situation like that, the Raiders are struggling, and they throw the ball over the top for a touchdown against a team that works on situational football. That was a shock. And then, you know, the play, which to me made no sense at all. I mean, you know that you could see the sideline, and I'm not defending anybody here, but it wasn't what the coaches intended, but they allowed it to happen. You know, I mean, I think Jacoby Myers said in the interview after the game, and I give the kid credit, Femi, he stood up and took blame for it, but it shouldn't be his blame. I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around in that play there. But, I mean, you could see that, you know, if you get on the ground, but what was shocking was that they did it. Like, this team with the Patriots this year has to be driving the head coach crazy because it represents everything that he doesn't want to do. They can't throw the ball. They make too many dumb decisions. They haven't been great in situations. I mean, they're nothing like you would expect a team that has been coached by him.
Why do you think that this is happening? Because after the game, Belichick was asked about that final play, of course, and he said, quote, "We've talked about situational football. We talk about it every week." I would imagine they've gone over late game scenarios of, hey, we have the football, tie game. What are we going to do if we can't get in the field goal range? Do we try to score a touchdown? Like, it feels like this is something that should have come up over the course of the week and over the course of the entire season in practicing situational football. So how does this happen?
Well, I mean, for a team that does it, I mean, this is the second game they've lost on the last play of the game. Go back to 2018. Google the Miami Dolphins improbable win, Kenyon Drake, when Gronk was the safety back there. Now, in that game, remember, Miami needed a touchdown. It was the last play of the game, and New England was playing for the Hail Mary pass, right? Yep. And so so Gronk's back there to defend the Hail Mary, and then they start running that crazy thing that they were doing last night, and, Gronk can't tackle Kenyon Drake, and they lose that game, and, it's a killer, right? So this is the second time it's happened. I mean, they ran the draw, like, to me, okay, you're running the draw. I don't think they felt like they could have thrown it in the back of the end zone. All right, so they didn't. But if you run the draw, just get on the ground. Like, if you're going to run the draw, why not just play the half out, right? Mm-hmm. Just kneel it down. What are we running? Like, that drives me crazy about football is at the end of the half, why have the back take more hits that he doesn't need to take when you're just going to run the clock out anyway? And you could see, I see Judge on the sideline, like with his hands up. And then when Jacoby Myers did what he did, look, the coaches have to assume responsibility, and it starts with the head coach. I mean, he knows it. It's on him. I mean, but this team has been this way all year. They do dumb things at the wrong time. And, they get the thing that's overlooked in this game is to get a punt blocked.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody works on punt protection more than they do, and they got a punt block. There's too many details that aren't getting handled. And they don't represent what typically is a New England Patriot team. And so, I mean, there's going to have to be a really hard self-evaluation, and it's going to have to start with the head coach because, they can't throw the ball. I mean, let's just put it out there. They cannot throw the football. This whole Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, it's not working. I mean, what are we, in week 16?
Yeah, entering week 16.
I mean, like, you want to say Mac Jones sucks, but you watched him last year with Josh McDaniels. He didn't suck, right? So you decide. I mean, they can't throw the ball. Like, they have no passing game. They just run plays. I've been saying this for how long? It's bad, and it's not working. It's just not working, and it's hard. I can remember when Juan Castillo became the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Mm-hmm. He was over at NFL Films one day, and I was over there. Me and Baldy were watching tape over there. And Juan comes in there, and he's like, I can do it, Mike. I can do it. I can be the line coach. I can be the coordinator. I learned from Jim Johnson, And I'm like, Juan, if you can do that, they should just make you the greatest coach of all time. There's no way you can do it. And I think that's right. I was right. And I think it's the same thing with Patricia. Just because he coaches defense doesn't mean he can call offensive plays or set up an offense. Like, it's kind of a hard – it's not there. And I think what Vance Joseph said was true. He was being honest.
Mac Jones yesterday, 13 of 31, 112 yards passing. That goes along with what you're saying about this Patriots offense not being able to throw the ball.
What makes it worse, Femi? Femi, what makes it freaking worse is the Raiders are not any good on defense on the back end. Like, if you can't throw the ball on the Raiders, who can you throw the ball on? I mean, and they did a great job of protecting, too. I mean, they were able to – I mean, Mac Jones got hit in the third quarter, but they were protecting Mac. I mean, he had time to throw it. They just have no idea on how to set up a game plan, how to attack an offense, how to attack the adjustment, all the things that I learned from there, all the things that I believe in offensive football, from learning it from there, from Walsh, from Belichick, from all the coaches. It doesn't. They just run plays. And they play battleship football. K5, miss. Okay, let's try G3. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. And their offensive line execution is so bad. Like, the biggest problem is the fundamentals and techniques of their offensive line. They don't have any.
Belichick was asked after the game why Mac Jones did not throw the Hail Mary on the final play. He said, quote, couldn't throw it that far. Do you agree with that? Because I think Mac, he's not known for having one of the strongest arms, but it was only about 55-ish yards, maybe 50 yards. It felt that maybe if you wanted to attempt a go at it for the win, that might be the most efficient way to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I just think, to me, if you're going to run it, just kneel the goddamn thing down. Avoid losing. And then, look, if you allow your players to do dumb things because you allow them to do dumb things, it's on you too, right? You're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. And nobody works on situations more. I mean, look, the play to Gronk, they worked on that situation, but they didn't work on the situation with Gronk on the field with Drake, right? You know what I'm saying? And so it's the same thing here. Like, what made anybody think that running that play at the end of the game was going to be a smart decision?
especially with the limited time that they had and no timeout. So it's not like you were being able to get the ball in the field goal range. It was either score a touchdown or go to OT. And the score was tied.
Why not just kneel it down? I mean, Folk made a 54-yarder earlier in the game, and so when they got the ball, you're like, okay, let's see what we're doing here. And when they got the ball to start the drive, there was 32 seconds left to go. They had 2 timeouts. They're at their own 25, and so they throw a short pass for 8 yards to Jacoby Myers. They use a timeout. Which, to me, when one of the things that's the tenets of what they believe in 2-minute offense is don't throw for 8 yards and use up time. You got to throw the ball in the middle of the field. You're better off with an incompletion than you are an 8-yard gain, okay? Which I agree with, right? So then 2nd and 2, they run it up the middle, and now the clock's running, and they got to call another time. They run it again. They run it again on 3rd and 2 to get the first down, right? Right? They run it again on 3rd and 2 to get the first down. They have to use their last timeout. So now they got the ball 1st and 10 at the New England 45. So they're what are they? Let's say they're 15 yards away. Maybe okay, let's say they're 18 yards away. So he's an incomplete pass, right? And then he throws another incomplete pass, and now it's 3rd. We got 3 seconds left to go in the game. Kneel it down. I mean, I'm sure it's second guessing, but kneel it down. I mean, why run it? Where are we going with it? There's 3 seconds, like you said. And I don't know what you thought, but when the play started, I thought, oh, shit, he might score. And then the camera never really showed you, but apparently the Raiders had all their defensive players back by the goal line. They were expecting a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I think the Raiders were going to let them get however many yards they wanted because the Raiders knew, all right, whatever, he's going to pick up some yards. We'll just go to overtime. And then inexplicably the lateral start, which I still don't understand how that happens when it's a tie football game, why you would choose the time to lateral. And then even to throw the ball to Mac Jones, even if Mac Jones catches it, what do we think is going to happen?
What's he going to do with it?
Yeah, what's he going to do?
What's he going to do with it?
He's the least athletic guy on the field. Where was he going?
I mean, what's he going to do with it? Remember, he ran the bootleg out there when they were trying to put the game away on 3rd and 10. Motion. And Crosby ended up capturing him. I mean, it was like, okay, I mean, like there, I mean, so like, look, I mean, say whatever you want. I think to me, this whole season has been, and I'm going to say this now, I don't think the Patriots are that bad offensively, as bad as they look in terms of their personnel. Remember, I believe this. It's either coaching, scheme, or players, right? There's 3 things. Players, coaches, or scheme. And I think you got to really be self-critical if you're New England and say, we're just not very well coached on offense and our schemes are not very good. I mean, it's just fair because the talent level is a lot better. Like, there's more talent on the Patriots offense than there is on the Raider offense. Now, they don't have Adams, and Waller's obviously a good player, but they've got depth at running back. They've got 2 tight ends. They've got good enough receivers. They may not be Adams, but they've got depth at receiver. Like, for them not to be able to throw the football half effectively, I mean, it's mind blowing. And look, we see it in the league. There's a reason why, Walsh said years ago, very few people can can evaluate the quarterback, and even fewer can coach him. And this experiment is a failed. It just doesn't work. It's not there. It's not getting any better. There's no continuity from week to week to week.
It's a devastating loss for the Patriots and their playoff hopes there. They fall to 7-7. This was one that they kind of needed to have because they
dominated the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, Femi, the Raiders had 2 first downs going into the last drive. It was painful. They couldn't get anything going. They couldn't protect. I mean, Carr was back there, and all they kept doing was just pushing the pocket back, and the Raider offensive line couldn't hold up, especially inside. They're playing the Garza kid at guard. He's typically a center. Then they put the other kid in at left guard when what's his face gets hurt. So now they're back. They're back up. Their 2 backup guards are playing, and it was bad. I mean, here's the thing. Judon isn't even on the stat sheet, and they were getting pressure on him.
Yeah. Uche's turned into a pretty good player.
Yeah, and so Uche made plays, but to me, all of a sudden, 4th and 10. They give up that 4th and 10. I mean, that was the one. Mac Hollins makes the catch in front of Mac Jones, and the next thing you know, they throw another 6-yarder. Then they throw it down the middle for 20 yards, and then, he throws an incompletion, and then 2nd and 10 with 37 seconds left to go in the game. Did you think it was a touchdown, Femi?
I didn't think so, but I didn't think you could overturn it like you said. I thought it was razor thin close, and I was actually. It's funny that you brought up if this game was on NBC, because that's what I was telling myself yesterday. I was like, we needed the NBC zoom in that they have. That's like 4K, and they could still zoom in, because I think if they zoomed in on the broadcast yesterday, you wouldn't have the resolution to tell whether he caught it or not, whether the foot was in bounds. But to me, it looked like it was out slightly, but I don't think you could have overturned it because it wasn't 100%.
But how can we be a multi-billion-dollar industry and not have all pylon cameras or down-the-line cameras at every single game? How can't we have that? I'm not sure it hit the tough. I'm not sure it did.
Yeah, it's a tough.
I'm not sure it did.
Break. Yeah, it was a tough break for the Patriots, but
the kid made a great play. The kid made a great catch. He made a great catch, and Carr, who was not very good, made a great throw. That interception Carr throws to Duger, oh, my God.
It's horrific.
That changed the game, Fem.
Yeah. Just think
what killed me about the game?
Uh-huh.
I'm in this contest with Russo on Friday afternoons, right?
Uh-oh. Did he pick one of these?
And so, of course, he takes the Raiders just to kind of irritate the shit out of me, right? Because he knows now I have to root for him, right? And so now I go 1-2. I don't get a cover from Buffalo, or at least a push, right? Because they don't score at the end of the game. I lose that one. And then Philadelphia gives up a cheap touchdown to your boy Fields at the end of the game. They don't cover a guy, and I lose that one. So I'm 1-2 on his picks. Uh-huh. I was 2-1 on my Uvison picks, but I'm 1-2. And then he turns around and gets that. It's like, seriously. So a part of me is like, I'm in this competition with them, but I'm rooting for he forces me to root for him.
It's all mind games. Michael, let's continue. Because yesterday was absolutely crazy. We got to move on to some of these other games here. Jacksonville, we saw them come from behind to beat the Dallas Cowboys, down 27-10 at one point. They win the game 40-34 in overtime. A wild game. Unfortunately, I watched every single bit of it, being a Cowboys fan. Good. But man, this was not good.
Since you watched every single play of this, I want to ask you one question.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever feel like, forget the score,
yep.
Did you ever feel like, because I watched it again this morning, did you ever feel like that Dallas was in control of the game?
I did until about midway through the third quarter. I thought that,
I never felt like they were in control of the game.
Because I thought they
were.
No,
I felt like Jacksonville was going to move the ball. I felt like Jacksonville was going to move the ball. I felt like Jacksonville was going to – all they needed was a couple stops. The fumble by Etienne early in the game kind of helped them, but I never felt like that Lawrence was really not getting a rhythm. I never felt like they had their scheme nailed down. I felt like the longer the game went, the heat was going to bother Dallas, and it was going to wear down whatever pass rush they had. I never felt like – to me, that was – everybody says they're up 24-10. Like, that's the difference is, to me, you've got to evaluate who's in control and who's in the lead. Sometimes it's both. But I never felt like that Dallas was in control of the game. I think they were in the lead, but they were never in control.
See, I thought the Cowboys could have leaned on that run game, because we know Jacksonville struggles to defend the run. And once they got up 27-10, I was like, okay, now you can lean on Pollard, you can lean on Zeke, and you can just kind of salt the game away and go about it that way. But for some reason, then the interception happens. Then once that happened, then everything just started to snowball. And like you said, Lawrence, he definitely got hot in the second half. And we've talked about him being an ascending quarterback. We saw him play maybe his best game of his career yesterday. And once it got to the fourth quarter, that's when I was like, all right, this is up for grabs, and it's going to be a coin flip. Hopefully they can win this game. But even with them, from your vantage point, thinking that they were not in control, it's still a game that Dallas should have won. Wouldn't you agree with that?
No, they should have. I mean, look, they turned it over in overtime. I mean, they get the game in overtime, and they have a chance to get off the field, too. I mean, I think you got to be concerned if you're a Dallas Cowboy guy. I mean, as you are. I mean, they gave up 503 yards in that game.
Yeah.
They gave up 503 yards in the game. I mean, and I would say, and last week, Jacksonville struggled. I mean, 2 weeks ago, or when was it, against Detroit, Jacksonville struggled to move the ball in the second half, right? And so they gave up 503, 311 passing, 192 on the ground to Jacksonville. Think about that. They gave up 192 on the ground to Jacksonville, right? They gave up 207 on the ground to Green Bay. That was what, week 10 of the season? Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to be worried about this team in the sense that they have forced. Think about this. That Colt game's misleading. It's 54-19, but we know that fourth quarter was a close game,
that was
right?
Close.
That was and then last week the Houston game was if Lovey challenges if Lovey challenges it, right? Maybe that's a touchdown. He didn't. They came out with that game. And then this game, and so the last 2 weeks, their offense has turned the ball over 5 times, and their defense has created 5 turnovers, and that's the difference. I mean, and they could easily be 1-2 over the last 3 weeks.
They're definitely trending in the wrong direction here in this game, and I thought it was just kind of a systemic issue. I mean, Dak made the turnover early on in that second half, and that kind of snowballed some things. Then also defensively, when they were able to get that fumble on Lawrence, you figured they would close the game out and say, okay, run the ball, or at least make Jacksonville use all of their timeouts. That third down call, electing to throw the ball deep down the field to Noah Brown, I don't understand what the point of that was. It's a high leverage situation. Wouldn't you, if you want to throw the ball, wouldn't you want an easier completion? Why are you going all the way down the field to try to complete a 50-50 ball at best? That, to me, made zero sense. You stop the clock. Jacksonville keeps their timeout, and now they have the ability to get into field goal range after handing you the football game. It made no sense to me.
I mean, look. Game management is at an all-time low in the National Football League. I mean, you could go back to the end of the first half in this game, and you saw 2 coaches that had really no idea how to manage the end of the half. I mean, Jacksonville's used a timeout. I mean, it was horrendous. They're throwing. I mean, your boy Kellen Moore's over there calling pass plays like it's nobody's business, even with no regard. To just get in this game. Now they got out of it. They came through the half without it. But, I mean, it's 21-7, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So Jacksonville gets the ball back with 1:55 to go in the half, right? And Dallas has all their timeouts. Dallas has 3 timeouts. So you're going to start this drive. You're down 21-7. You don't want them to get the ball back because you're going to get the ball to start the half. And, of course, they come out incomplete. Then they get a penalty, a false start. Then they got 2nd and 15. So now let's get the clock going a little bit. Well, they get it going a little bit. They run it, but then they play fast, right? They go real fast, and they go 3rd and 9 incomplete pass. So here it is, 1:43 to go. You've taken 12 seconds off the clock, right? And you give them the ball back. You give them the ball back with 1:31 to go at the end of the half, okay? Yeah. I mean, I'm watching this, and I'm like, is anybody paying attention here? So then, of course, Dallas, what does your boy Moore do? He can't wait to call a fucking pass play. Yeah. He can't wait to call one, right? And, of course, the back goes out of bounds, so that stops the clock. So now we got a 1:25 to go on the clock. They go a short pass, okay. Of course, they run and huddle it, and they do it. Another pass for 6 yards, puts them in a 3rd and 1, right? Jacksonville calls timeout. You want to get this first down because they just call timeout. They're going to get the ball back with, of course, they run it. Jacksonville calls their second timeout. They don't get the first down. Now Jacksonville gets the ball back with 41 seconds left to go. And they can't do anything with it, but there was a chance there. I mean, if they didn't get the ball at the 14, say it was a bad punt. And so, like, at the end of the game, why are you surprised that Dallas doesn't manage the clock very well? It was right there at the end of the first half.
I guess I expected too much from them, but this team, like you mentioned, it hasn't been good over the last 3 weeks, and now the injuries are starting to pile up. Leighton Vander Esch is now hurt with a neck injury. That's going to be
that's bad.
An issue for them. Then also, I mean, Dorrance Armstrong got hurt a little bit, but I think he was able to come back in. But it feels like every week now they're just losing more and more defenders. The secondary, Kelvin Joseph, they were picking on him all game long. That was one that the Jags were able to find a lot of success targeting Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. So I think that Dallas, what was once their fastball, being their defense and being able to play fast and physical, is now it's no longer their fastball, to where it's putting more onus on this offense. And I think the offense is losing the plot here as well of, okay, we need to throw the ball, we need to air it out. It's like your 2 best guys on offense are Zeke and Pollard. You need to lean on those guys to shorten the game and to help protect the defense that is reeling a little bit.
You need to go back to what you did when you had Rush in there, right? Because here's what I don't think anybody really understands this. Dallas's defense is 22nd in the National Football League in yards per attempt allowed. They're 24th in yards allowed. I mean, They can't stop the run, right? They struggle to stop the run. Now, what they're great at doing is creating turnovers. But they're going to play Philadelphia. I'm shocked they're a 1.5 favorite in this game, Femi. I'm completely shocked by that.
I think that's the betting market has loved Dallas quite a bit this season, and also you factor in home field advantage. That's why you're going to get Dallas favored. But yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking Dallas right now. Now I'm not saying I would bet Philly, but I wouldn't feel comfortable betting that game just in general. Like I got to see more from the Cowboys. I think that they can beat a team of the Eagles' caliber.
We said this all along on this podcast. They have to play with Dak like they did with Cooper Rush. Feature the run, limit the turnovers. But look, in the last 4 weeks, this offense has turned the ball over 8 times. 8 times. Now, they're 3-1 in those 4 weeks, but they've got 8 turnovers, right? Mm-hmm. The only game since Dak's been back that they didn't turn the ball over, that they didn't turn it over, was the Minnesota game. I mean, to me, they're not playing complimentary football, and their defense isn't good enough. Like, I think they're overvalued in the market. I really do.
You might be right. The Cowboys are now 30-1 with Dak Prescott when they have a 17-point lead in a game. This one loss being what we saw yesterday. And also, it's the first NFL game, Michael, to end on a pick six since Jameis Winston threw a pick six in the Week 17 game in 2019. So it's not good for this Dallas Cowboys team as they fall. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, for the Cowboys, they were able to clinch a playoff spot yesterday, not on their own volition, because the Commanders went ahead and lost to the New York Giants. Sunday Night Football, the Giants beat the Commanders 20-12. A little controversial toward the end there. Everyone's talking about the illegal formation when Terry McLaurin checked to see if he was on the line of scrimmage. Then also the final play, the no call on the pass interference that we saw. Ron Rivera was asked about the whole game in its entirety afterwards. Here's what he had to say, and then we'll break it down on the other side.
Ron, all week talking about how big this game was for you guys. Can you describe the magnitude of this loss?
Oh, yeah, It's disappointing as hell. It really is. It pisses me off more than anything. We had an opportunity to win, and you know, I thought we did everything you're supposed to do, from getting the ball down to the 1 yard line to getting lined up, checking to make sure we're lined up properly, and then having it taken away from us. That's why it's hard to comprehend right now.
Do the Commanders have a right to be upset, Michael, with the final sequence there?
I mean, look, the problem is, depending on what stadium you're in, if Scott Novak would have been on the referee in that game, that would have been a penalty. I can promise you that. He couldn't wait to throw his fucking flag out there. He's it just depends on who's doing the game, right? Mm-hmm. You know, like the Commanders will get a letter from the league saying it should have been pass interference, but that don't do you any good. Mm-mm. You know, and look, even if they call it and they get first and goal with the one and they score, are they going to get the 2-point play to get it to overtime? I mean, I don't know. I thought one of the most, and I screwed up. I took Buffalo first in my Russo poll because I felt like with weather, I miscalculated the weather. That was horrendous on my part. But I thought weather, I wanted to grab that with the game. I love the Giants this week. I loved the Giants this week. I loved them. Like, I didn't understand why that line was 4.5. He took them first. I screwed up in my mathematics. He took them first, but I loved it. Like, I didn't understand how the Commanders were 4.5 points favorite better than anybody. I mean, you go through their season. Who do they ever beat by a lot, right?
Nobody.
You know? Nobody. They're not. I mean, Taylor Heineke, you know, he's an average player. We've made him out to be this, like, they're 28th in the league on third down. They're 22nd in the red zone. Like, I know they should have. I mean, I know it was a penalty, but, like, I thought the Giants played exactly how they have to play in the game. They gave you a lot of run yards. They didn't give up they gave up one explosive play. But, I mean, for the most part, the Giants played exactly how they have to play. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't make the mistakes that they didn't, you know, and they, at the end of the day, they end up with a win. They give up 6.1 yards per play. Think about that. I mean, my man Daniel Jones throws 32 attempts. He's got 160 yards.
Did what they had to do to win.
His two leading receivers, think about this, Femi. His leading receivers, Barkley at 6.6. His second leading receiver, Slayton, at 4.6. And they win the game because this goes back to how not to lose games. Of course, Washington, you know, Ron didn't mention they turned it over twice in the game. one for a touchdown. I mean, if they help the left tackle out against Thibodeau and he doesn't get the sack fumble, what's the score? The score's what? 13-12?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Commanders definitely made a couple of mistakes. The pool reporters asked John Hussey, the lead official from last night's game, about the Curtis Samuel play there toward the end. That was a no call in the pass interference, and Hussey said, quote, "To the officials, it didn't rise to what they felt was a restriction, thus they didn't call it." End of quote.
What was he going to say?
He's
going to say, "Oh, fuck, I fucked up. Can we do it again?" I mean, seriously, I love when they ask him that. What is he going to say? It's like if we brought Earl Warren back, what do you think he's going to say? Oh, absolutely. Lee acted alone. Of course he did. Let's bring Alan Dulles back and ask him. Oh, of course, it's irrefutable. Like, come on. I mean, what do we expect him to say?
Never
but
fault.
The Giants win the game for one reason and one reason only, is the way the Giants have won games all year. You can move the ball on the Giants defense, but when you get in the red zone, you're 1 for 3 like the Washington Commanders were, and they're 0 for 1 and goal to go. So that's why you end up with 12 points.
It was a big time.
Think about it. I mean, they got called. How about the pick play they got called on?
Yeah.
On the 2-point conversion, they get called on that pick play. Like, and who's the guy on NBC? Terry McLaurin? I forget who the hell he is.
Terry McCauley. Yeah.
Terry McCauley, yeah. I mean, well, Collinsworth even said it. Like Terry, the guy was trying to run a route, and the corner just like that happens on every play, and you call that? Like, I mean, you can't tell. I mean, pass interference is different on what stadium you're in, what crew.
Yeah, you need Novak out there. But yeah, this Commanders team, though, they had been living right for about a month, so I'm sure this is probably the football gods balancing things out, because we saw another Taylor Heineke interception that should have been get dropped when it was right in the dude's hands, right in the end zone. So
I mean, they can't. I know it's a nice story and all, but Taylor Heineke's not good enough to win. I mean, if he gets in the playoff, you just feel like the field is shrunk when he plays. Like, there's no way they can make an explosive play, and that offensive line is a disaster. That line is horrible.
Yeah, he's not good. And hopefully we don't have to discuss them, honestly, because I'd rather the Giants get into the playoffs than the Commanders. But, Michael, let's take our first break. We got to get to a lot more here on this week's edition of the GM Shuffle. All right, Michael, we got to get to what happened on Saturday with Jeff Saturday in the Indianapolis Colts. Oh. My goodness, we saw the largest comeback in NFL history. The league has been around over 100 years, Michael. We've never seen a comeback quite like what we saw Saturday. The Colts were up 33-0 at halftime. They end up losing the game 39-36 in overtime. But you put out a tweet, and this was about midway through the game. I think it was around that halftime portion, that you said simply, the Colts are 12 first downs from winning. Milk the clock. Don't snap it until 1 second left on the play clock. They didn't listen, man.
No, they were snapping it with 18 to 20 seconds left. I mean, I said this.
Got to run tempo.
If you could have flown Bill Parcells in at halftime from Jupiter, Florida, got his butt on an airplane, put him in, let him go out there, put on coat gear, let him coach the team, and if he takes it, say Saturday, you go work for ESPN the second half, okay? You just go work for ESPN, and I'll take this. I'll take it over, and they would have won the game. They would have won the game. But, I don't understand it. Like, why are we snapping the ball with 18 seconds? When we do that, I mean, if you do it 3 times, there's another minute in the game. There's another minute in the game. We're just giving them more times to get it back. So it was like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? So just for the record, Femi, they ended up with 6 first downs in the second half. 6. And a fumble. I mean, the amazing thing about this comeback is it wasn't like the defense scored. I mean, let's face it here now. The defense did score. The officials just didn't let them score.
Twice.
I mean, not only did the Vikings have to overcome they had to overcome Trey Blake. I mean, they had to overcome the deficit that they created themselves, and they had to overcome Trey Blake's whistle.
It was just out of control. And I'm watching the game on Saturday, and you feel that, okay, the Vikings look like they're kind of dead. Maybe it's a sleepy spot. Who knows what's going on? And then the second half starts to play out, and Jefferson's getting whatever he wants. Osborne's getting whatever he wants. And it's like, oh, there might be something here. And I didn't get involved with the game because I didn't want any part on either side, but you just felt that it wasn't going to be easy for Indianapolis once you saw the Colts offense couldn't do a lick of anything in that second half. Jeff Saturday was asked about the second half collapse and heading into overtime as well. Here's what he had to say after the game.
Yeah, I mean, I played a lot of football, so I've been a part of some crazy games myself. So yeah, I mean, when we walked out of halftime, I told them this team, they've won 9 of 10 of their games have been one-score games. Yeah, we didn't overlook. We understood how explosive this offense is, how many points they put up. So no, I'm not. I'm disappointed in how we played in the second half and didn't find a way to close this thing out. But ultimately, I told the guys in there, we didn't make enough plays, and that goes around the entire football team. And you got to look yourself in the mirror and understand when there's opportunities to make and close teams like that out, we got to make them. We didn't make them.
I mean, look, it's always the players, right? The players didn't make enough plays. Like, I heard that quote. I watched that after the game, Femi, and I'm like, wait a minute, Jeff. Like, see, this is my hardest part about watching football games is like, do you understand like how you got in this lead? Like, you weren't making any plays to get the lead. You get a field goal on an 11-play drive to start the game. Okay, great. You get a fumble. You get a punt block for a touchdown. Okay, now you're up 10. Right? Then you get the ball on a fumble. You get the ball on a fumble. You get another touchdown. You kick 2 field goals because they go for it on 4th down. You essentially get 20 points because you didn't make a play. If you were making any plays in the game, you would have been up by 40 at halftime. I mean, the Vikings were just saying, here, please take it. Here, have it. Like, at some point, like, it's not the players making plays. It's how you manage the game. Like, at some point, you just can't say we got to go out there. They're an explosive team. Like, okay, you go to your offensive coordinator. Here's what we're doing in the second half. I don't want to snap this son of a bitch until there's 3 seconds on the play clock. We got to make sure we got a lot of good third down calls that we can run because I don't mind being in third down. I want to use 3 downs I want to get first downs, but I want to run this clock. It's funny, on Friday morning, I wrote a column for VSiN.com, and I talked about Parcells in the second quarter when he had Lawrence Taylor. He'd get a 10-point lead. He'd tell the fucking offensive staff, Ron, milk it, Ron. Because he knew he had Lawrence Taylor. He knew there's no way they're going to score 10 points. Belichick's going to play cover 2. There's going to be no big plays. Nobody's going to be over the top of us, and we're going to make them work the ball down the field. How are they going to get the ball in the end zone against Lawrence Taylor? It's the same thing here. Like, go over to your defense coordinator. Instead of playing palms, which they were playing most of the freaking game, like, go over there and say, hey, Gus, just play Tampa, play 2. Let's make sure nothing gets thrown over our head. We're going to come up. We'll tackle really good. Let's rush 4. Let's see if they can methodically put 10 plays together. No big plays. Like, you don't have to be a genius. And then when we get the ball on offense, we are going to milk this clock.
It almost felt like, to me, like the Vikings were just playing around with these guys. Like, all right, we're better than these dudes. Let's put this video game on expert level and get down 33 and see if we can still win the game. And they were able to win the game. And it's just funny enough because Jeff Saturday, we all know, is the interim head coach who replaced one Frank Reich. Frank Reich had the previous largest come-from-behind win with the Buffalo Bills against the Houston Oilers in 1992. And shout out to one of our Twitter followers. I believe it's Chris Salomon or Salomon. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He tweeted at us saying, is this the ghost of Frank Reich game? With Indianapolis losing and giving up that big of a lead.
I mean, I don't know how he comes back, right? I mean, he just auditioned here in the second half. I've been involved in a lot of football games. No, you haven't. You've never been in this situation where you've had a 33 like, nobody's in that. You're the head coach now. Like, that's why to become a grandmaster chess player, you have to go through a lot of chess games to get there. Mm-hmm. Like you can't just play. Like, he keeps citing his experience as a player, which is going to allow this. Like, you have to coach the coaches. That's the most frustrating thing about New England. The best coach I've ever been around used to coach the coaches, and now they're making mistakes. That's how hard it is. Like, that's how hard it is to coach the coaches. Like, he can't get it done. How is Saturday in the Park going to get it done? Like, it's a joke. And here's what I will tell you, Femi. I don't know what Jim Irsay has, but he will never gain alignment in his organization. He will never gain alignment if he doesn't remove Saturday from the equation. Because whomever he hires as his next head coach, and I'm assuming it's going to be Saturday,
No,
They're always going to have the ghost of Saturday hanging over them because, hey, Jim, I wouldn't have done that. Hey, Jim, I wouldn't have done that. Jim, I don't like that. I'm watching tape. I don't think we're doing it. Like, that's not alignment.
Yeah, no, he can't hire Jeff Saturday. That's just not a thing that can happen.
Watch him. Watch him.
I mean, if he does.
Hey, these guys are billionaires. These guys, it's like when you have this incredible wealth, does it really matter what you do? I mean, the Saudis prove that. I mean, it don't matter. They got so much wealth, they don't care.
I guess.
They don't care.
Well,
you can write all the columns you want. He loves the guy. And the guy thinks he's really good at it. That's the hardest part. Like, to me, if I were Jeff Saturday, I would be calling Bill Parcells every hour. Say, Bill, help me out here. Help me out. He probably would. I would be calling Joe Gibbs. I'd be calling every coach.
Over the last 4 fourth quarters, Michael, the Colts have been outscored 77-3 in the fourth quarter. I don't know what else Jim Irsay needs to see there to realize he doesn't have
It's
the guy.
a disaster.
Also, unfortunately for Matt Ryan, he's now the common denominator in the losing end of two of the greatest comebacks we've ever seen. Obviously, the 28-3 Super Bowl with the New England Patriots, and now this game, 33-0 against the Minnesota Vikings. And this game did clinch the NFC North for said Minnesota Vikings. Another win, another one-score victory here for Minnesota as they're now.
I'll tell you what, if Kevin O'Connell ever goes out to I said this on Mitch and Paulie this morning. If Kevin O'Connell ever goes out to Las Vegas, they won't let him in any casino. He's the luckiest fucking bastard on planet Earth. Like, there's no chance he could get in a casino. Like, Derek Stevens would not let him in Circa. Like, there's no way we're letting that guy in here. He's too fucking lucky. Like, he's hey, I give him all the credit in the world. They fought, they played, but there's a lot of luck that had to go into that. I mean, he is so lucky. It's unbelievable. Now, it's going to run out eventually, but it's not run out so far.
Yeah, the guy's got a horseshoe up his ass or something, man.
No, he's got 3 of them up there.
It's ridiculous. But if he comes to Las Vegas, hey, man, come play with me, man. I'd love to ride the coattails and make a little extra money with that luck that he's carrying. But that game was crazy, Michael. Then we also saw a fantastic game. Wasn't as wild, but I think it was a much better played game in Buffalo between the Dolphins and the Bills. I know you were
you had your jersey on.
You were wondering if I had my jersey on.
You were at that game. You were sitting there in the cold.
I was not one of the people throwing snowballs on
You loved
the field.
when Mark Sanchez, every pass that was incomplete, Mark Sanchez said, that should have been a catch. That should have been a catch. The ball was 6 yards behind the receiver. That should have been a catch. That should have been a catch. I've never seen a campaign like this guy has. I swear to God. This is remarkable. I'm mad at myself. I'm mad at myself because when you got to be honest with yourself. Mm-hmm. I mishandicapped this game, and it cost me a play in Russo. I mishandicapped it because I was expecting bad weather, Femi. I was expecting the fourth quarter to be the whole game. And there was no wind. There was literally no wind. How is that possible when there's going to be lake effect snow and there's no wind? Like, I'm not blaming anybody but myself because I'm the one who said it. I thought that, to me, the people that were taking Miami in the 7, you being one of them because you're a Tua fan, were taking it because they felt the game was going to be close because of the weather. I took it because I thought the weather would help Buffalo.
It's funny that you bring that up, though, because I know everybody thinks I have a Tua ticket. When there was reports that were coming out, the reports were coming out Saturday morning, and I saw Chris Mortensen put a tweet out saying that, hey, hearing from people that are at Orchard Park, it's not as windy as people think it is. It's just a little chilly. The snow maybe comes later on in the evening, possibly in the second half or fourth quarter. When he put that tweet out, I actually bet on Josh Allen to win MVP at 24-1 because I figured, all right, if there's no wind, Allen is going to have a really good day against this Miami Dolphins defense, and it was a primetime game. Everybody was going to be watching it. This could kind of start to build a late-season MVP campaign for Josh Allen, and he was awesome. 304 yards, 4 TDs, had a couple of weird plays where he got away with some things, but he also carried the game on the ground with 77 yards as well in the 32-29 win.
I mean, look, I thought that they lost the ability to cover for me when they had 4 punts in the third quarter. Mm-hmm. When they went 4 punts in the third quarter, they went 3 plays, 5 play, 3 plays, 5 plays, and they punted. To me, they should have taken the game over at that point.
Yeah.
Because, they won the fourth quarter. I mean, Tua's fourth quarter was 13 plays, 3 first downs, and a field goal. That's all he had. They couldn't do it. And that fourth quarter was kind of what I thought the game was going to be like, right? And Buffalo's fourth quarter was basically 23 plays, 9 first downs, and 10 points. and they fumbled once. I mean, they fumbled, and so when Buffalo got that when Miami got that fumble, they only went 18 yards in 5 plays to kick the field goal. So, I mean, look, I thought in terms of the weather, I thought Tua played as good as he could play, but the ball wasn't slippery, which I was counting on. I thought it was going to be a wet, heavy ball. They threw it, but once it got bad, I mean, Miami just couldn't really stop them. I mean, other than the third quarter, Miami couldn't stop them. Think about it. They went punt, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. They had 3 touchdowns in the first half, and then they got the third quarter where they went punts, and then in the fourth quarter they went back to moving the ball again.
What did you make of Mike McDaniel and his play calling? Because the Bills couldn't stop Miami on the ground, but for some reason, third and short, he kept wanting to throw the football. And it kind of goes along with what you were saying last week in the Chargers game that, what is this guy doing from a play calling standpoint?
And so like in the first half of the game, he had 14 rushing attempts for 126 yards, right? That was the first half of the game. He had 14 rushing attempts. And so he rushed, and in the second half, he ran it 10 times. Tua had 1 carry for 7 yards, so that was a scramble. He only ran it 10 times. Now, Buffalo's playing a nickel front. So, and they're soft and they're light on the edges. And it wasn't about gap integrity. It was like, if you're going to play Buffalo, you got to run the ball. They're playing a nickel front against you. Like, they're never going to go into base defense. So you got to take advantage of the run, and they were doing a shitty job of tackling. And I just think they become so preoccupied with trying to sell, their passing game. And look, they made a hell of a play. The 67-yarder on the over route, they caught him they didn't cut the coverage. But look, they did a great job. Tyreek Hill averaged 7.7 a catch. He had 13 targets. He had 7.7. I mean, so it wasn't like, that's the game plan. They took Tyreek Hill out of the game, and, they were able to hang on. They still gave up 29 points, but they should have ran it way more, Femi. I agree with you.
Yeah. You look at the box score, 7.5 yards per rush, and you only ran it 25 times in a game that for much of that second half, they were in the lead. I don't understand what Mike McDaniel was doing, but it helped out for Josh Allen to win that game. Helps me out. Hopefully Josh Allen can maybe make a late season push to win MVP, because that's the ticket I actually have, Michael. It's not the Tua ticket that you guys keep pinning on me.
You got it.
We don't have that one, although he did play better than I expected in those conditions. All right, let's take another break.
He did play better. He did.
He did.
But I don't think the conditions were that bad. It was just cold.
Yeah. But everybody said he couldn't play in the cold either. I mean, it wasn't just about the wind and snow.
Tua has a size 10. I mean, his hand's big. He could have grip of the football. I was worried about him with the snow and the rain and the slipperiness. I mean, there were some bad throws there. There were a couple. How about the play that gets Buffalo the ball back? That's almost intercepted out there in the flat, Fem.
Yeah, no. Taron Johnson made a pretty nice break on that ball there. But Tua, he threw a couple of nice passes. The TD pass to Tyreek Hill, I thought that was a nice pass. Let's take our.
That's a lob pass. I mean, you could throw that in your backyard. Jesus Christ, it's a damn. All he's gonna do.
Not
he just can't underthrow it.
I can throw it in that snow. Got to give the guys some credit.
You and Mark Sanchez should get together campaigning.
I enjoyed Sanchez on the broadcast. I thought he was having a good time. Let's take another.
He never explained to you why they were able to run the ball. He didn't explain. Nobody ever explains what front they're in. Nobody ever explains what the personnel groupings are matching to the person. That's the game of football. Like, nobody ever explains that. Like, that's the game of football. Like, they're in nickel. They're in dot. Here's why they're running it. Football's a game of numbers, and it's a game of size. And if you don't explain that, the fans at home don't get why they're running the ball. Well, we got to have gap integrity. Bullshit. You got to get bigger on the edges. You're do whatever.
I do agree with you there that I don't think the game is explained as well as it should be. But let's take another break, Michael. We'll get to the rest from Sunday, including my man, Dan Campbell, keeping the win streak alive. All right, Michael, let's get to the rest of Sunday's slate here. The Detroit Lions, once 1-6 on the season, now 7-7 after they beat the New York Jets 20-17 out there in the Meadowlands. Boy, this Lions offensive line continues to make plays, and Detroit made the plays that they needed to do in the fourth quarter and ultimately won that game with Zach Wilson starting for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, look, plus a little help from the head coach of the Jets. I mean, one of the tenets of game management is when you save time. Why do you save timeouts? You save timeouts for two reasons: to throw the ball in the middle of the field during 2 minutes, and to use if you get sacked. Okay, because when you get sacked, by the time those guys run back and get set up, you end up losing 4 plays. Again, I wish we would have a play counter on the screen to show us. How about my man Dominic? He goes to the game yesterday at the Raider game. He doesn't go to all of them, and he says to my man Corey, who's my son's mixed college roommate, and they're out there, and he says to him, I don't see the yellow line. He's looking for that yellow line to be the first down, right?
I love it.
Well, I'm looking for the play count, right? Like, okay, so so Saleh, like for example, he doesn't use, like when Zach Wilson gets sacked with one, Zach Wilson gets sacked on the first play of the drive, 1:49 to go. He gets sacked. You got to use a timeout there because he doesn't snap the ball again to 1:28. That's 21 seconds. That's 3 plays you just gave away. 3 plays. You got to use a timeout for 3 plays. And then when he completes the pass with 1:22 to go, he goes the deep pass on 3rd and 10. It goes for 22 yards. He doesn't call timeout there. They don't snap that again until 58 seconds. So between the 22 seconds between the 21 seconds he lost, and then he loses another 24 seconds. There's 45 seconds he gave away. 45 seconds he gave away on a last-minute drive. 45 seconds. So if he would use just call timeout, all right, so maybe let's cut it to 30 seconds. So 30 times 6 into 30, that's 6 plays he lost. See, we never think about plays. We just think about time. Mm-hmm. So he's giving away fucking plays like it's his job over there. But why is anybody surprised? I mean, they did it in the first half at the end of the first half. I'm watching the end of the first half, and they can't manage the end of the first half. Now, they ended up with 3 points at the end of the first half because the Lions couldn't manage the end of the first half. Right? The Lions come out, and, they run the ball for 16 yards with 143. Then he throws incomplete, and then he throws a check down, and the Jets get the ball back with 25 seconds, and they throw the deep pass, and they get 3 points at the end of the half. But the Jets had it before that. The Jets had it with they took it all the way down to the 2-minute warning, and then of course they got sacked. They couldn't do anything with it at the end of the game. But my point is like you can't give away plays. You got to call timeout. What are you going to do with them, especially when you need them? You could spike the ball.
And we just saw this happen with the Colts Steelers game with Jeff Saturday taking all those timeouts, and Robert Saleh has 2 timeouts that just went unused for some reason, and then he has to settle for the 58-yard field goal, which never should have been the situation. They should have been able to get well within field goal range to try to tie that game up and send
easily.
It to overtime.
They did it at the end of the first half. They threw a deep ball, right? And the only reason he used his second timeout was because he had to, because Zach Wilson makes that ridiculous throw to Elijah Moore for 20 yards. Mm-hmm. How about the interception Zach Wilson throws? How bad was that?
That was terrible.
And then he almost threw another interception. He had the ball floating in the air there, and the Jet guy caught it.
Yeah. Which is crazy because I actually thought this was one of Zach Wilson's better games all season. I was like, okay, he's actually.
Well, I don't know about that. I think he had some better plays. He had some really shitty plays in this game. He took some bad sacks.
But think back to his other games, though.
Oh, I know. But Detroit couldn't. But Detroit stopped them from running the ball. I mean, if the Jets can't run the ball with Wilson in the game, he's going to turn it over. Mm-hmm. I mean, and he's just going. I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, he's just going to turn it. And I thought you're right when you started this segment. You're absolutely right. I mean, the Jets had 22 carries for 50 yards against the Lions. I thought the reason Goff is playing so well is even when he was in the Rams, that offensive line wasn't great. It was good. It wasn't great. This line is really good. This line really helps them.
Yeah, this offensive line is really good. They were able to control the line of scrimmage. And it's why I was kind of confused yesterday morning looking at the odds board when we were getting closer to kickoff about an hour away, and the Jets kept getting bet. And it didn't make any sense to me because this was after Quinnen Williams got ruled out. He was inactive, and he, in my opinion, is the Jets' best player. What he's been able to do at defensive tackle spot. We knew that Zach Wilson
Corey
was in
Davis
for Mike
wasn't
White.
playing.
Corey Davis was out.
Corey Davis, and then Denzel Mims gets hurt in the game.
Somebody out there was betting the Jets crazy, though.
I didn't understand it. I was on the Lions, on Russo. I was on the Lions all week. I thought the Lions were the better team. especially in light of the Williams injury. And then I was betting against Wilson too. Like I was going to bet against Wilson. And, but Saleh's sitting there saying, like at some point, here's the thing about Saleh. He doesn't call offensive or defensive plays. He cheerleads. So if he's not going to manage the game, who is?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. But it's a devastating loss for the New York Jets, though. They fall to 7-7. They've now lost 3 straight. Short week for them. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up on Thursday.
You think Wilson starts this week? You think he starts against Jacksonville?
I do. I think the owner makes him start. I think the owner says we got to see him play. I
don't think the owner's making him do anything. I think to me the owner's got to want to win. I don't think White will clear it well enough to play. I think they'll put White back in there.
You think White starts?
I think to me this guy's he's going to turn the ball over again.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, but I think that just given the situation with Mike White's injuries, and also they still have to get an evaluation on Zach Wilson, unless they're comfortable with where they are with their Zach Wilson evaluation.
They got to try to make the playoffs. Look, they did a great job yesterday. The Detroit Lions are the best red zone team in football, and the Jets held them to 0 for 3 in the red zone. I mean, that game's only close. Really, the Jets are only in that game because of the red zone. They got a holding call. They got 2 holding calls on the right guard for the Lions that I wasn't sure they were hold.
Yeah,
that was bad. They were bad. But again, that's the calls. But they played great in the red zone, and that's what kept them in the game, except for the fourth and 1 where they gave up the big play.
It's going to be an interesting game on Thursday. But, Michael, let's go rapid fire with the rest of these games here. The Chiefs, they escape past the Texans 30-24 in overtime. 14-point favorites.
Amazing.
They need OT to beat Houston. What do you make of this Chiefs team? Like not quite like the Cowboys because they
play to their competition.
But yeah, they're just not.
I thought they would cover that easily. I thought they would cover easily, and they play to they play to the lower the competition. And it takes a turnover by Mills for them to win the game. I don't get it. To me, the Chiefs to give up 24 points to Houston. There's liability. I didn't think Buffalo played their best game either. I didn't think they played their best game either.
Yeah, well, at least Buffalo was playing against a team that could walk and chew gum. Houston's one win all season. I don't know what Kansas City's doing, but we said it last week. Mahomes is going to have to be A+ in the playoffs for this team to continue to advance. Can he do that 3 times? I guess we'll find out in January. Chargers beat the Tennessee Titans 17-14. What more could you say about Justin Herbert? The throw he made to Mike Williams on that final drive down the sideline, just absolutely ridiculous. It set up the game-winning field goal there.
Yeah, Tannehill comes back. I thought he was out for the year. They carted his ass off. He came back and to make that drive at the end of the game. And look, Herbert's tremendous. I actually thought Tennessee would cover. It was 3.5 most of the week. It closed. It went down to 2.5. But, Tennessee's got to regroup because right now, Jacksonville, the way this thing's going, I did it here. I was looking at it this morning in my notes here. Jacksonville's got Jacksonville has they got the Jets this week.
And then they have Houston.
They got the Jets this week, and then they go to Houston, and then they end up with Tennessee. And whereas Tennessee has Houston, they have Dallas. So, and then, Jacksonville already beat them once. So, Jacksonville's got they really have a chance. Even if they don't beat the Jets this week, they have a chance.
Yeah. That game, Week 18, that could be the Sunday Night Football game. Maybe it might be for the division down there in Duval County, Titans and the Jaguars. That would be a lot of fun to see Trevor Lawrence in a game of that magnitude. We haven't seen that since his college days. The Bengals, they turned the Bucs over 5 times on 5 consecutive possessions, beating Tampa 34-23. I was the idiot that took Tampa plus 3.5, up 17-3 at halftime. I think I'm good. Apparently, I wasn't good because this was a rout in the final 30 minutes.
I never understood the Bucs love all week. I said it on the show. I gave out the Bengals as one of my picks for Bill A.D. I didn't get it. Like, one team's playing really good, and the other team sucks, and yet you're going to bet the team that sucks.
But do you think
it makes no sense at all?
Do you think Cincy was good yesterday? Because I don't.
I thought they were really good in the second half. I thought they kicked the shit out of them in the second half. I thought they just physically beat the shit out of them. You can't get Brady to make that many mistakes in a game. They just literally – but that's the Bengals all season. They play better in the second – Lou Anarumo does a great job of the adjustments, and it's hard to score on him in the second half. They literally beat him up. Brady was 4 for 12 on third down. I don't think they played well on offense. I mean, the Bengals only had 237 yards of offense.
They had average like 3.9 per play or 3.3 per play on offense. I don't think the score suggests what this game truly was. Like, the Bengals were never going to score 34 points unless it was assisted by Tampa. But, hey, they got 5 assists with those 5 turnovers. So I guess what can you do?
And they got the fake punt. That was a turnover, too.
Yeah. It was a disastrous second half for Tampa, who somehow still has a 1-game lead in the NFC South. I mean, goodness gracious, that division. Also,
they shouldn't let anybody in from the South. They should not. I hope they let Carolina in for Matthew's sake, but that's the only reason.
Yeah, that'll be a big game coming up in a couple weeks here. Brady, though, was 89-0 when leading by 17 points before Sunday. That is now 89-1. Finally, the Eagles and the Bears. Philadelphia got a little hairy there for a second. They win the game against Chicago 25-20 as they held on.
I got backdoor covered.
Yeah, you did get.
I got backdoor covered in that one. I thought for sure they would score. Yeah. I mean, like, Buffalo doesn't score the touchdown. They settle for the field goal, and the Eagles kneel down, and I lose. So that's what happens when you lay points. But to me, the Eagles played shitty and still won.
Yep, I think that was the story. Hurts had 2 interceptions, but he also had 3 rushing touchdowns in that game. Philadelphia able to win when they play poorly is a pretty good sign of a good team. 13-1.
Yeah, your boy had 91 yards passing. I mean, no big deal. He had 91 yards passing. I mean, that's fine. It's okay. I read a tweet. Somebody sent me a tweet. Somebody sent me a tweet. I love this tweet from your guy at the Worldwide Leader. I figured you two are contriving against this, right? That if you just give all Fields needs. Here it is. Here, I got to read it to you.
I think I saw this earlier, and I thought of you.
Did you see? This is from Big Dan Orlowski. I mean, he has some of the you two are brothers in arms. He loves Tua. He doesn't think Tua could do anything wrong, right? If Ryan Poles is any good as a GM, seems that he is, the Bears can be Super Bowl contenders by 24. And then Sports Source Analytics basically just sticks it right up his ass by showing you what Fields does in the passing game right below it. It was the greatest. I mean, like, Dan, are you watching the game? Like, you played quarterback. Like, if the guy can't throw the ball, how's he leading the team? They're running a 6-back offense, and he's going to get hurt. He got hurt again yesterday. Like, at some point, when do you, like, stop it? Stop. You don't have to be friends with everybody. Like, just, evaluate it. Like, he's a 6-back. Is he going to get better? Hopefully he will. But if he don't throw the ball well,
I think he'll get better. They're doing what they can right now to stay competitive in these games, because the ultimate thing right now is to try to win games, and for them, they just don't have the talent to go ahead and do that. But I think he's going to continue to get better if they surround him with some pieces.
Super Bowl 2024. I'm going to write it on my board over here. Right on my board. I'm gonna take that tweet and put it over here on my board.
The campaign starts now. We're going to take our final break, Michael. We're going to get to Monday Night Football and the awards on the other side. It's the GM Shuffle. All right, Michael, before we get out of here, let's hand out some hardware. The Fred Palermo Best Game Plan of the Week. Who's that going to?
I mean, Mike Tomlin. I mean, Mike Tomlin's a dog down there in Carolina. Mm-hmm. I mean, and he went down there and he stopped Carolina from running the ball. And I thought Trubisky played really well. He didn't turn the ball over, and they dominated that game from start to finish. I mean, that game was 24-16, but Pittsburgh was the more physical team. Give Tomlin, I thought they had a great game plan. They stopped Carolina from doing what Carolina has to do, which is run the ball.
Tomlin's one of the best as an underdog. Who's going on the lamb this week?
Well, I mean, you got to put Saturday on the lamb. I mean, you could put the Patriots on the lamb too. I mean, both when you blow games like the way those two teams blow games, you're destined to go on the lamb.
The David Ogilvy Fraud of the Week.
Dallas, the defense. You can't give up 500 yards and call yourself a great defense. Tell me one great defense that does that.
I haven't seen one, and it's unfortunate that the Cowboys have resided to this late in the season because it's not good. If you don't know, now you know.
The Bucs suck. Stop betting the Bucs. They suck. They're not any good. Like, stop it. Like, stop thinking that there's a key you're going to put in the ignition that the Bucs are going to become a Super Bowl team. Just stop. They're no good.
They're pretty bad. And I was pissed off, unfortunately, for a second half of that afternoon yesterday because I bet the Bucs. Finally, Michael, Monday Night Football tonight. Baker Mayfield and the Los Angeles Rams, a sentence I didn't think we would be saying about 2 weeks ago, taking on the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are 7.5-point favorites at our show sponsor, DraftKings, total 39.5. I think we might be in single digits tonight at Lambeau Field. Big Daddy, I'm sure, is going to have the heater on, get the popcorn going.
He'll be ready to go. Yeah, he'll be ready to go. He will start bitching 4 minutes into the first quarter. Let's go over and under on Big Daddy's first text. I'd say 6 minutes into the first quarter. If Baker throws 2 completions, it's coming. Goot's going to get killed. LaFuck's going to get killed. Do you think LaFuck's got a good haircut tonight? You know that happened. And I mean, look, I think you got to take the points. The one thing I learned this weekend, just take the points. These teams still fight. I mean, the Packers should win this. I think the Rams are terrible, especially without Aaron Donald, but I'd take the points.
Yeah, I have the Packers in a teaser. I just need them to win by 2 or more. So hopefully they accomplish that, because if they don't, that's a pretty
Big Daddy
sad
will come out. There'll be heads rolling from Big Daddy.
Yeah. Big Daddy, I believe in the Green Bay Packers tonight. Hopefully we get some good vibes out there at Lambeau Field. But that does it for this week's edition of the podcast. A lot of fun today after a fun Week 15 in the NFL. The playoffs are only 3 weeks away. It's going to start to get good, Michael. Thank you, as always, to our producer, Elliot Bowman, who's with us on the ones and twos. Thank you to DraftKings. Thank you to VSiN. Thank you to all the listeners. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you to you, Michael. I'll talk to you on Thursday. Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.